record the session, and again, we'll share it afterwards. So today, what we wanted to run through was our P6-Loader. It's a newest version. We made quite a few, I think, pretty interesting modifications in this version. And I'm going to run through those today. So it's really more of a what's new. We'll focus on different things that P6-Loader can do in this new version. So I'm Nicole Jardin, joining from Calgary today. I'm the founder and CEO of Emerald. And with me, I have Ravi Wallo coming from Brazil. And of course, he's the lead programmer on P6-Loader. So if any of you are existing clients, you probably have worked with Ravi. And of course, Sue Familia from Wyoming. And she does most of the demos and helps lots of clients roll P6-Loader out. So she's really the functional lead on the tool. So she's with us as well today. So as I mentioned, today's webinar is going to be focused on some of the new features. So in this particular revision over the last few months, we've been working on these changes. We had three key client-driven changes that we added to the tool, and that's the way the tool usually gets built. Is clients or we need something, so we add it, and then we are able to share it with the community of P6-Loader users. So in this version, I've been working with a large oil and gas company doing a major IT project, and we needed a lot of templating, or for us, way too old schedulers, fragnets. So if you use P3, you know what I'm talking about. So in our previous version of Loader, so maybe within 2 to 3 years, we've had the ability to copy a whole project. Okay, so that's like a template, but the whole thing. So what we're adding with this fragment template is a component of a project. So like a WBS or multiple WBS layered together, that sort of idea is what we've added to it. So I'm going to show you how that works. I'll show you the source, the target, what you have to put in the Excel sheet. So it's very simple. So this can be fantastic for loading in work orders if you're in a turnaround, repetitive work if you're doing a capital project like a building, for example. So you have a repetitive template for different parts of the building. Okay, so usually the substructure has a template, and then the upper floors have templates. So this lets you build the schedule very quickly. I'm going to also show you the idea of an IT project where you've got a bunch of packages, like let's say you're rolling out Maximo, or let's say you're rolling out P6. There's certain things you need to do. So you have these packages you have to deliver, and again, very repetitive. Okay, so I'm going to show you that. And then we had a client doing a lot of work with consolidating databases. So this is where P6-Loader is awesome. Okay, if you've got multiple databases and you got to bring them together because you want to save money, you want to make it easier to report on, you want it easier to maintain, you want standards. You know, moving layouts and things like that can be very time consuming. So we did a lot of work on the layout, filter, management components inside there. So I'm going to show you some of those, what we've done. And then we added a lot of enhancements, okay, little things, but they go a long way to make it more usable. So things like rates. Some of you use the tool for rate loading. I'm going to show you that. So we didn't have all the fields that made it easy to use that sheet. So we've added additional fields. Predecessor, successor, same thing. We were missing fields that make it easier to group, sort, filter. And I know I use this a lot in my work here in the IT program because they kept changing the logic. So instead of redoing thousands of logic ties, I would just take the logic sheet out and filter on the different activities I knew that I needed to build logic on and reload it. So it was huge, huge time saver for me. And then just a whole bunch of work related to hierarchical codes, okay? To make that easier, again, to work with. If you're making a very complicated WBS or activity code structure, it can be time consuming to make it land right, and it can be frustrating. So we tried to make that easier as well. And then when you're uploading actuals, okay, so this is, again, another client-driven requirement. They were taking stuff out of a different system, essentially timesheet data out of another system. They wanted to automate their loading and making sure that if we got an actual, that we started the activity. So just putting some smarts into the loading sheet so that if the actual start was missing, it would still load. Okay, this sort of smart features inside the tool, which makes this tool much different than just the basic import-export. It's far superior, way more functionality than what you can get in there. And it's all coming from our client requirements, okay? So making it more readily usable by any other new user. And then there's some changes on codes and how we deal with codes and things that you're able to do. So we had a code roll up. Now we have a code roll down, and how it actually works with the roll downs. And so we'll try and explain all those pieces to you. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. And I'm going to jump into P6 and the loader and start showing you the tool in action. Okay. First, before I jump in and load something, I need to get you oriented to what we're looking at. Okay, so I'm going to start with the template components. So first and foremost, we can build out a template. So in this example, I've got different templates for different kinds of work. So this is a capital project template. This is an IT template. Okay, now you can put them in different projects. You can put them in one project. Totally up to you how you want to put them together. But the key thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to call a portion of my WBS. Okay, so let me show it to you in the WBS form as well. So I'm going to call a portion of it. All right. Now in my example, there are two different kinds of templates, but it doesn't have to be. It could just be a functional test component that you're going to call. Okay. So as an example, in this IT program, we don't have all the work scoped out. We know all the testing is going to come later. So we're going to build a template for testing. We're going to run that in after. Okay. So it lets you build your project out phase by phase as needed as well. But we're still going to be able to take advantage of bulk loading, so I don't have to do a bunch of stuff manually. Okay. So now, what do I have inside of here? Well, I have, of course, all the bits and bobs that P6 lets you do. So I've got roles, resources, expenses, maybe not on all, but on some of these, there's some expenses. I've got relationships. I can have steps as well. If you're going to want to use steps, you can have steps inside there. I think I might have some down here on the capital side. Okay. So when we grab this template, it's going to grab all that framework. Okay, so that's the big benefit. We're going to be able to do it very quickly. Now, with this client I was mentioning, we've loaded it more than once. So that's the other benefit. If we change the template, or if we don't have the proper list of work orders or packages, I can reload it. Okay, and very quickly. So we rebuilt the schedule, I have to say, more than once, and it took us only a few hours to rebuild it on the last pass when they decided, no, the template's no good, let's kibosh it all, and let's load it all again, okay? We can load it very quickly because you make the template modifications, you delete everything, you make the template modifications in that scenario. It made more sense to delete everything. And then rerun the list. Okay, so this is the list. So let me try and explain what we're looking at. So I have the project that I'm grabbing the template out of. That's called the source. And I have the project I'm going to put it in. And I'm going to put it into a certain WBS that's in the project. Okay, so I'm going to show you that in a second. Now, then I have a bunch of fields that are these placeholders. So these are things we're going to substitute in for what I've got in these fields. Okay, now in my case, I've got different formatted placeholders because I'm pushing stuff into an IT program as well as a capital program. Okay, so this is maybe more complicated than what you might have, but the point really is we can have multiple placeholders. So I've got placeholders here that are going to substitute in some words in my placeholders, and I can substitute in my activity codes as well as user-defined fields. Let me just scroll over here. Okay, so I'm actually going to assign a bunch of activity codes when I put these templates in. So in my example, it's a work package code, it's a discipline code, it's a responsibility code, etc. Okay, so this really goes a long way because I don't have to do all this coding. Okay, now the coding's pretty fast in P6 with fill downs, etc. But this will mean I won't have to do that. Now the same holds true with user-defined fields. I can load them in. Okay, so with some of the examples I had, I loaded in their dates that they gave me from Excel, okay, into a user-defined field. So we can compare it to what the logic was going to do in P6. And then we can also load in user-defines at the resource, the WBS, etc. Okay, so it's going to do a lot of heavy lifting for us using this Excel sheet as the way it's going to go and make stuff. Now let me go back to the template to explain these placeholders a little bit further. Okay, so in this example, what you're seeing is you've got placeholders going to do the WBS numbering and in my description too. So I'm going to throw in my number, my package number, plus my description. So it's going to fill those in automatically for me. Now, the same thing is going to hold true on the activities, okay? Because we need unique activity IDs, or, you know, P6 doesn't like that. And we've got these the same thing holds true in the activity name, okay? You don't need uniqueness in the activity name, but you do need uniqueness in the WBS name, okay? And we actually made some improvements on how it deals with those clashings if for some reason you send something in that's the same. Okay, so that's the framework. Now let's actually see it do its thing. Okay, so I'm going to move off the template and I'm going to go into the project that I'm going to load it into. So it's the target, so where I'm putting it into. And I'll just show you kind of what's inside there. Okay, so you see I have in my IT project, really I have nothing in here. Just one sec, looks like I might have deleted. Let me just delete. I just missed deleting this, clearing it out so it's ready for the reload. And then you can see in this case, the capital project, I have a few standard WBSs, but I don't have all the work scope. Okay, so I'm going to land it in here. I'm going to land it in here. And I just didn't have time to produce another example, a turnaround, but it's going to be the same process. Okay, so that's a placeholder for future examples. Okay, so let me go into P6-Loader. So of course you log into P6-Loader. It's the same login as your P6. It's controlled. It's got security. It adheres to the security. And we use the Primavera, the Oracle API to actually invoke all this work. Okay, so we're not doing any weird abnormal stuff that could be bad for your database. So then I have the ability to choose the file that I was just showing you, the Excel file, and load it up. Okay, now Some of you might say, hey, that screen looks different than what my screen looks like. So I'm just going to make it bigger so you can read it better. So we have made some improvements as well on the user controls on what's going to happen with this file. So for example, I might know the file I'm working in, I only care about making new things. I don't want it to bother trying to do all the updates, okay? So you can turn some of these things off. If I already know I loaded all the codes in UDS in the past, I can turn those off too, okay? So this is just more user controls that we've added to the tool. And we always had the enable deletes for extra double caution. And so if you know you're deleting, you can do that. Now in my case, I'm calling the template. So some of these choices are not as relevant in this example. Okay, and then we'll touch on some of these others in a bit. So let me go ahead and call the Excel file I was just showing you and ask it to go ahead and load that up. Okay, so it's going to run through and it's going to do these first 10 rows. Now you can see here, this second set of rows, it's going to ignore, just like it always has, because I've put a split. I've put a break. So it only does up to a first break, and then it will let me do this in a next pass. Okay, so if we have time, I'll do an update, and that's what I'll use these for. Okay, so if all went well, you get this sort of message. If there was a problem, I don't see any in my list, you'd see a warning or an error message, and you could go look at it. Okay. All right, so let's actually see what it did. So I'm going to refresh in my project, and I should see a lot of stuff come in. Awesome. That's what we want to see. We want to see that it went and grabbed the different templates, and it's going to create the different IT items. So I'm rolling out Maximo, P6, SAP, and it built all of this. Okay. If I go into this template and I'm like, oh, this template's no good, it's not quite right, I could just delete it, as I mentioned, and start over from scratch. Okay, so you can do this lots of times till you get it the way you want. Okay. Now, what did it do? Well, it took the things that were in the template. So of course it used the WBS, it put the placeholders in and replaced with my items, my names, my IDs. So my IDs are awesome, nice and clean, really excellent when you're doing filtering to really have good standard structures there. It filled in my package code. It filled in, I think there were a few others that I called, but let's just see. I think I called them on the capital project. I called the discipline, I called the responsibility. So again, all that coding done for me, okay? Now, if I see here I've missed some coding, I can rerun it and call the coding. But this coding, I think, actually was on the template. So hey, I could fix that in the template and rerun it. Okay, so these are some of the benefits that you can gain by using this. Really, really saves you a heck of a lot of time and a lot of frustration. All right, now let's take a look. So then you can look at your resources and your logic. And I think I actually have a mistake here. Okay, so that tells me I had something wrong in my template. So I could fix that in the template and rerun it. Okay, so now to do that, there's a few fields over here on the side that I just want to point out. Okay, so when you run a second round and you know you've modified your template, you have to make some choices here on what you want the template to do when it's an update, a change. It's a rerun, essentially. Okay, now your answers are going to depend on what's happened between the time you loaded it the first time and the time you want to rerun it. So in my example, I haven't really had 6 different users changing a bunch of stuff. Okay, so it would be a simple decision on what I want to do here. Okay, so if the template has new relationships, do I want to add them? Yes or no? If there are relationships that are not in the template anymore, but they're in my project, do I want to delete them? Okay, so this is a tricky decision here. You might say, yeah, because I only ran the template yesterday, so yes, I can say yes. And I know I change a bunch of logic. But if it's weeks and weeks since you ran the last template, you may need to say no here. Okay, so you may need to go a little more cautiously. That's where using P6-Loader standard predecessor successor logic may work really well. Okay. Now, same things for the resources. Okay, if it finds new resources in the template, should it add it? If it finds some not in the template, should it remove them? Okay, so these get a little tricky, and we've tried to address them in this loader. Okay, now again, if you're a little nervous and you're not sure if a bunch of other people have added resources and you don't want them blown away from them, not a problem. You can use P6-Loader, basic functions, pull out the logic, pull out the resources, and you have the ability to do bulk deletes from there, okay? So you know, if this feels a little frightening, don't use it. It's okay. You can say no to these things, especially the deletes, okay? Especially the deletes. So it's your choice. So you have controls there, okay? All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to make some changes to the template, and I'm going to rerun this. And I'm just going to insert it up here. And I'm going to put a break, okay, because I just want to rerun these. All right, now I'm going to make the changes just in this IT example, just to make it simple so we're not running a bunch of things. But I did want to show you that I can run this template more than once, okay? So in this case, on my construction work, I only had these first 6 packages, and then the team brought me a bunch more, okay? So I can run it again, and I can just keep increasing my scheduled development as the packages are known and coming to me, okay? Okay, now I see there's a question in their room. Okay, so how would this differ than a template node inside P6? Well, the difference, I think, in this is we're calling it in an easier way, okay? When you're doing a template, you have to copy it and you have to do all the replacing inside of the template afterwards with searches and replaces. So Christina, the big difference here is I don't have to do all that searching, replacing, and I don't have to call it 10 times. P6-Loader is calling it automatically the amount of times that we want. Now, in terms of the way you build the template, I would say that's going to be the same. Okay, so in my case, I just made it a regular project. It's not a hidden template project. So building it is going to be darn similar. That I would agree with. But in terms of calling it and usability and easy use, heads and tails above copying and pasting templates in P6, because there's no real replacing and search and replace placeholder functionality. Okay. So hopefully that helps you understand that. And Ravi, if you want to type in the reply in there, then Christina can let us know whether or not that actually did answer it. Alrighty. Okay, so let me make a few changes. I'm going to go back to the template project, and then I'm going to rerun it. Okay, so I'm going to just change that earthworks. That's wrong. I totally blew that and picked the wrong resource. So let me fix that. I think it was on this. Yeah, this is completely wrong. So I'm going to remove that. That's not right at all. Okay. And I'm going to add a resource. And yeah, I should have picked an IT resource. So that's better. So that was totally not correct. And what you might find is some of your logic is changed, okay? Whether the team you're working with changed their mind or whether you might have inputted incorrectly, it doesn't matter. The idea is we might want to change the logic, okay? So I think I have review is coming from draft, so that's good. It's going to approve, so that's good. Draft is going to the draft here, okay? And that might be right, but maybe it's also not right. So we might want to remove that. And then we might want to change the way that's coming. So maybe it really needs to come after the review, for example. Okay, so I'm just making that up. So I'm going to change that logic. Okay. So I've changed some of the components of the template, and I want to run it again. Okay. So this Maximo one was already in there. You can see it. I already ran it. So I'm going to rerun it again. And it's going to call the new template. Okay. And it's going to try and do those changes that we said. So add new things and delete new things, or extra things, both logic and resources. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my project and I'm going to let P6-Loader do its thing. So I'm going to load it up again. Okay, same project, same file, made the edits in it, and I'm uploading it. Okay, so what we're expecting is we're expecting just the Maximo one to be edited, so this one up here, and some changes just in this first chunk. Okay. Now you can do many changes, but just for the sake of time, we're just going to go with a handful of them. Okay, so same as before, I'm expecting to see, hopefully, that everything went in okay, but if something wasn't quite right, you know, my codes collided or whatnot, it would tell me, it would give me errors or warnings. Okay, now not only are we editing this Maximo one, we're also expecting these work packages to be added. Okay, so you can mix and match and do multiple things in one shot. So first and foremost, I'm going to look at the packages. Okay, so I see package 7, 8, 9, 10 have been added. Okay, now you're going to see, oops, then it goes to package 1. So the order is a little screwed up. Not much we can do about this. This is so P6-Loader out of the box, WBS order control, you need to run that afterwards, okay? So, but it's done the heavy lifting for me. It's just that it puts it at the top. It's the way the WBS works, okay? So you just need to do one more tweak, pull those out and reorder them instead of doing this, bumping it with this arrow key, which will give you carpal tunnel when you got a big project. Okay. All right. So so you can add, you can keep adding. It'll call the template. And then I think I changed a few things in here. So let's take a peek at what it did. So let's look at the resources. Okay. So the resources, it got rid of that earthworks. Awesome. Because, you know, if I had it a bunch of times, we wouldn't want to have to go and manually change them. So that's good. And it added the resource, IT resource in. Perfect. That's what we want. Okay. Now let's look at the logic. So the logic, it took, did it do it right? Let's just see, because I wasn't sure. It looks like maybe it didn't quite do everything right. So it looks like it maybe didn't delete this one. But it did do the new ones in here. So I think maybe there's still one more little thing for us to look at in the loader, but it did the bulk of them, okay? So again, you can run it multiple times, and that's the huge benefit here. As you're building out your template, making sure it's working well, you load it just with one, right? Okay, so when you're testing out, making sure that it's gonna work the way you want, you just load one record. Right? load it, make sure you like it, load it, make sure you like it, that sort of thing. So it's really easy to get it down pat, and then you get all your data in here. So if you're doing a turnaround, you might have thousands of work orders to load, and they might be different types of work orders. So you can call different templates. So that works fantastic. And in this IT program that I've been working on, that's exactly what we did. We had different kinds of work scopes, different lists of things we're doing. I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of lists. So building out the schedule can literally take you only a few hours. Okay, now then you still might have to do inter-package logic and things like that, but the guts of it are there. The framework is there. So it's huge, huge, huge time saver. We would have needed at least 6 schedulers to do the work that we were doing with a team of really 2 full-time people working on it. Okay, so hopefully I gave you an idea of that. So this was one of the very big enhancements that we did. Now let's talk about some of the smaller but very, very valuable enhancements. Okay, so I'm going to open a spreadsheet that I already prepped to show you some of these enhancements. So for those of you newer to Loader, I can extract data from what's inside a P6. So one of the areas that we might want to extract, and I think I prepped the sheet already. Let's see, I think I called it version 13. Yeah, I did. Awesome. Okay, so let's just go load this one. Are you sure you want to discard? Yeah, I don't really do anything. Okay. So this lets me save a format of something I've extracted. Okay, so if you're going to use it multiple times, this is fantastic. Saves you a lot of time. So one of the areas that I know we have lots of clients using the tool is to do the resource rates. So in P6, we have our resources, and then we have rates. I'm going to flip this so I can show all my resources. And I think the one we were using was 150 ton crane. I'm not sure if I typed it right. I probably typed it wrong. Let me try this way. Let me just find it. I just don't remember what it's called. Oops, wrong sheet. Let's go to the right sheet. Here we go. And let's go to the resource rate. Yeah, 115 ton crane. Okay, had it wrong. So I'm just going to go get this one. Okay, so in P6 we can have our rates change. That could be yearly. It could be every 6 months. It doesn't matter. Totally up to you how you want to do that. So we have the effective date, and then we have the rates. Now, not only do we have the effective date, but we also could have different rates for day shift, night shift, morning shift, afternoon shift, evening shift, however you use P6, okay? So here's an example where we've got not only the rate changing, but we have the rate changing per shift, okay? So this can be time consuming. If you need to go in here and edit, it can be quite time consuming, especially if you have a long list. So P6-Loader was already able to, keeps going the wrong one, was already able to do changes in effective date. So we're going to add a new rate for 2024, and I've got the rates here. Okay, so it was already able to do that. But what I found when I was trying to use this was it didn't have all the fields in here that made it a bit easier for me to work with, okay? So it only had the resource ID, I believe. We've added the name, so it makes it easier to filter, group, and sort. We added the type, so maybe I just want to do non-labor. Okay, so that lets me filter it, that sort of thing. Plus, we've added the UDFs. We got a lot in our demo database, and we added the codes, okay? So that's going to make it easier for you to work with this sheet, So that's the biggest thing here that we've changed, is the usability. Now that holds true for relationships as well. Okay, so in our previous worksheet, when you would pull it out, it gave you a lot fewer fields. So I didn't have the project names of the predecessor, successor. So we've added that again for filtering usability. It didn't have the names of the predecessor and successors. It only had the IDs. Again, same thing. Just made it harder to filter, group, sort, do different work inside the sheet. Okay, so we can still load logic, but this is going to make it more usable. Okay, so for example, in my case, I had good naming convention. So this makes it easier for me to filter on engineering, and it just gives me those to work with. Okay, and then I could change the logic. Maybe I had finish to starts, and maybe I needed to make those finish to finish, for example. Or perhaps I needed to introduce a lag on all of those. Okay, so I can do the work a little quicker in Excel, okay, because there's no real fill down capability in that part of P6. And so I could do those bulk changes in here much quicker. Okay, so those are two key things that we've changed in the tool. So it's just an enhancement, but it makes it much easier to work with. Okay, so that's really, really the key. Let me touch on another biggie. So another big one that we did was tackling the way that we deal with hierarchies. So hierarchies are in many places inside of P6. So what I mean by a hierarchy is, for example, here on the WBS, you see how we have these different parent-child hierarchies inside of here, layers. So that is what we call a hierarchy. And they're all over the place in P6. They're in the codes, of course. That's a flat one, but which one was, let me just get one that's a hierarchy real quick here. Sorry, just can't remember. Got too many codes here. Okay, there, that's an example of the hierarchy. And that's one we were just filling in as we were building out our work packages. We were filling that code in, okay? I didn't show you that sheet, so I'll show it to you real quick. Okay, so this is how we built it in Excel and loaded it in P6. Again, it's usually faster just by the nature of the concatenates and things of that nature. In Excel, you can build them real quick, okay? So I can build them inside this sheet and have them auto-populate in this sheet. So much, just lets you do two things in one shot and makes it quicker. So these are hierarchies. So in the hierarchy, we have the ability to, let me go back to the other sheet. We have the ability to work with the parent, with the code itself, so the different layers, or the big thing that we've added is the ability to see the whole hierarchy. So in this case, the whole WBS, and just work with it. Okay, so again, you could have multiple columns that explained to P6 how to build this out. So it'd be a lot faster, easier to work with, okay, rather than working with them split out. Now, you get to work with whichever way is easiest for you, okay? And then the key thing here is when we load it, okay, so this is extracting those sheets. So I already did those sheets. So I did the WBS, I showed you the roll rate, the activities and relationships, okay? So I had used this already to pull it out. This is the output sheet. And then, of course, I made some changes already, just to, again, for the sake of time here, I already made the edits here. So I added an effective date on the rates, and I made those changes that we just looked at for the relationships. So we're going to flip them from finished, we're going to leave them finished to starts, and we're going to put a lag. Okay. I didn't really change anything in the WBS, and I didn't really change anything in the activity sheet. Just again, for the sake of time, I just wanted to show you that we have those different capabilities here of doing the full WBS. Oh, almost forgot. We also added this handy field for the level. Okay, so if you've ever had to build out the WBS, sometimes you're not sure if you got it right. Okay, and so this lets me scroll through. Okay, those are my two top layers. So my turnarounds and my capital projects. Okay, perfect. Now let me go see my second level of WBS. So I've got pre, post, turnaround. Awesome. I've got these. Okay, so I can start to see it a lot better. So this also a small thing, but a game changer. When you're building it out, you want to make sure you have it right. Okay, so we've added that level inside the different hierarchical data. So particularly useful in WBS and activity. Okay, so this is telling me I've got activities at level 2 as well as 4 of my WBS. So this lets me go look at them. Okay, so again, a small thing, but huge usability gains. If you work inside these sheets here, you might know what I mean. Okay, so give us a thumbs up if you think that's a good one. I found it very, very helpful, so that would be good to know. All right, so let's load these in just so you see these in action. Okay, so let me go back to Loader, and I'm going to load them in. So I'm going back to my upload area, and I'm going to choose that file. Okay, so it's this one here, and I can open it up. Now, if I had deletes, I can turn that on, and this lets me tell the loader which way of building those hierarchical codes I want to use. So before I just had one way, it used the parent and the child or the code. Now I can actually get it to use the full list, okay? Full hierarchy. So you have both choices inside of here. Okay, so I can go ahead and ask it to do the upload. So we should see some changes on the logic and the rate. Okay, now I just want to go back to check that logic area so I know where to go look. Sorry, my mistake. And okay, so this is going to be in my work package. Oh, okay, so it looks like it's logic in all the work packages and it's off the engineering design activity. So activity 110. Okay, I just wanted to double check so I go to the right place. Okay, let's go first to the resources. And did it finish? It should have. It's pretty small. Okay, it finished, but it told me, oops, something's not quite right. Okay, so let's see. Oh, okay, so it looks like maybe there was something wrong with my hierarchy. Yeah, okay, so not the end of the world. It looks like there might have been something wrong in my export that I've changed. So, but it should have done the resource rate. So let's look at that. So I'm gonna refresh it. You always have to refresh it so that your screen knows to get the latest and greatest data. So in this case, I did rate change on shift 2 so that you see it coming in there for January 2024. And those are the rates. So not only did I do a unit rate for price number 1, but number 2. Okay. So again, that seems simple, but if you've got a lot of them to do, believe me, that's very time consuming. Now let's try and go back to our logic. So it was 110 and it was in the capital side. And I'm not sure, it could have been the error was inside here. So I might have done a bad example. Let's just see. Yeah, it's probably that I did a bad example. So what we should have seen was the lag changing on there, okay? So I probably just did a bad example. I probably changed something since I extracted that sheet. Okay, so those are some of the big usability examples. We did a usability improvement on the bucket loading for the actuals. I just didn't have a chance to create an example of that. So maybe we'll do a YouTube video of that since I just didn't get time to get that one working. Now let me go to another huge component of what we changed inside of the layouts, okay? So layouts. So let's talk about layouts. We have a few different pieces to the layout functionality that we've improved on. So I'm going to start with the what you do in one database, usually in one database. So if ever you've had layouts and your team says to you, I screwed up my layout, can you get my layout back? The answer might be, oh, no. That's depressing because if some layouts take quite a bit of time to put together. So you can export layouts. If you're in the app and you've got a layout, okay, you can go to layouts and you can export them. Now, it's more or less one-to-one the way that you have to do that, okay? Now, you can do it like this, export, and it'll go make a bunch of little files. So there are ways to do it kind of quickly, but this, we think we've made an improvement on what you can do. So I can actually go to one database or many. As you can see in my example, I've got a bunch of them tied up, and I can export layouts. Now I can take all of them or some of them, okay? So one thing that you cannot do easily is to grab user layouts for the whole team. So we have the ability inside of here to go beyond what P6 allows you to do and grab user information, okay? Not just at the layout level, but also on the filter. So that's what you're seeing here. I've got a bunch of different users that have filters and layouts and etc. Okay, so I can grab all of it. So, you know, you can save someone's bacon by having their layouts exported. Okay, so I can take all of them and run it. Ravi, I don't remember. Is this something that's going to take a while? I can't remember. I'll do it. I think it's pretty quick. I might regret it. And then it saves it as a file. Okay, pretty quick. Awesome. So then you can...
It should be quick, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then you can download it, make sure you have it. You can do that once a day. You can do it once a week. Okay, so that's, I think, a really nice feature that we've added, especially for you folks administering large databases with large user groups. Okay, this can really be a very good time saver. Now, with the export of those layouts, you can also do imports of those layouts, okay? So you can do basically the reverse and bring them back. So that's a nice feature. Now, also, as I mentioned earlier, we also already had the ability to deal with layouts if you're consolidating databases, or we have clients who have production, pre-production, dev, test databases. And to keep your layouts all organized between those, it's time consuming. So this lets us grab layouts and push layouts between databases, okay? Now I'm not gonna show you all that work. If you're interested in consolidating your P6 environments, if you find you've got the dev, prod, pre-prod, etc. type situation and you want to make that easier, then reach out. We'll go do a deeper dive on that. But this lets you do that sort of work. Now, one of the things that we've added is to also be able to pull a mapping file out. okay? And now I'm going to show that to you. So a mapping file is important when you're looking at different environments, different databases, and you want to make sure that you know what they're called in different databases. So I might have a database where I've got phase, let's say a phase code called phase, and in another one, they haven't named it the same, okay? Maybe they called it EAI phase, for example, okay? So it's the same code, but they're named differently in different databases. If you're consolidating those, then it's going to make two different codes, and then you're going to have to clean it up, okay? So we do have this mapping file that lets us take out what's inside of P6 that we've added to P6. So we can add codes at the project level, the activity level, etc. We can add UDFs at the project level, activity level, etc. So you can add a lot of stuff to P6. So here you can see from our database, we got tons of stuff. And we want to take that out. So this lets you map what it was called in one database to the database you're going to work with for consolidation, okay? So again, it's a huge time saver, going to make your life a lot easier if you're undertaking that kind of work, okay? And we have lots of clients who have used P6-Loader for that exact purpose, and then they keep using it for their day-to-day operations. Ravi, did I forget anything on that?
No, I think you covered everything, Nicole.
All right, okay. Anything else on this new release that I forgot? Sue?
I don't believe so.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I don't see any other additional questions. So I will jump back to the PowerPoint, and I think I've probably covered everything. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything, and then we can probably close out. All righty. Okay, well, hopefully you saw something of interest if you're already using P6-Loader. If you're new to P6-Loader, I've covered, new features, but Loader lets us grab virtually all the data in P6 and work with it in Excel and push it back up. Okay, so we've got clients all around the world using this tool, loading millions of lines of Excel each year. We do count them. That's part of how the package is sold. It's on a points basis. So if you use a lot of data, it's a bigger package. So our corporate package. If you're a small user, it's a standard package. And we've got professional in between. But it lets you do a lot of real good legwork in Excel and push and pull in and out of P6, okay? So thanks for spending the last hour with us. If you're an existing user, let us know if you haven't got the upgrade. If you want to look at the upgrade, get that organized with your team, and go ahead and reach out. Okay, there's a question. Is P6-Loader competitive to PIF? Similar, more or less functional? Now, trying to understand that. I don't know what PIF is. Ravi, do you know what PIF is, or Sue?
I don't.
It is the it's how when you export a layout or a global change, that's the format that it comes out in.
Okay.
It's a PIF. It's a PIF file.
Okay. Okay, is that a
for the layouts?
Is that
yes.
a software tool, or sorry, I'm not sure what this is.
It's an Oracle. Well, okay, I misunderstood.
Okay,
it's
well,
an Oracle product.
Christina's trying to answer. She's saying, I don't think this is anything like PIF. I've worked a lot with PIF. I don't know what PIF is. Sorry, Sorry, Brandon, I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if it's a different software tool or part of something in that. Sorry, I don't know what it is. So we'll have to maybe take an action and look further at that. I don't know what that is. Sorry. No, PIF is an Oracle product. Okay, I'm not sure. Project Integrated Framework. Oh, we use PIF to integrate SAP and P6. Oh, okay. Oh, it's not Gateway, right? I don't know what that is. Sorry, Brandon. Well, we do a lot of integration work. Yes, PIF is like the middleman in between applications. Okay, so it's sort of like a gateway tool. Okay, I mean,
I found a
obviously,
presentation.
let me
I
just,
found a presentation, Nicole.
okay.
It looks just like Gateway.
It's like gateway. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there are some overlaps perhaps, Brandon, because we do use Loader with some of our clients to do integration. Okay. Now, often it's a precursor to a more automated integration, but we do have some clients that it didn't make sense to work in that direction. So we do have integrations running through Loader. So it's not exactly the same, but if you're interested in some integration components, it's possible. But we've done tons of integrations to SAP Maximo, to SAP HANA. So just reach out. We've integrated to tons and tons of different tools. Okay, if you're looking for something like that. So there's a bit of overlap, but it's not necessarily the same intention. The maintaining P6, keeping your dictionaries clean, loading new projects. I think Loader has a lot of different benefits than just an integration piece on its own. If you administer P6, you might know what I'm talking about, right? Because there's a lot of things you got to keep clean, changes you might make, things of that nature that are not necessarily going to be from an integration. So hopefully I answered that question a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that for Brandon, it might make sense for him to watch a presentation for the P6-Loader itself for new customers.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he had seen it before.
Yeah.
So it might be helpful.
Yeah, and we'll have more webinars as well that just go from the grassroots up as well. So yeah, definitely, those are some different ideas. All righty. Okay, I don't see any further questions at the moment, so I'll stop the recording and